Hello again. How have you been? I know. It's been way too long since we last spoke. But I'm still here. I'm still learning how to use my abilities to enhance the lives of others instead of trying to keep it all to myself. I struggle with maintaining this balance. All of my life, creating has been a deeply personal way for me to cope with the stress and anxiety of life that would otherwise be crippling. And my natural tendency toward introversion makes it almost second nature to keep things to myself. But what if by sharing this stabilizing force of creation, I might in turn aid someone else? Be it someone who also creates, someone who wants to create, or someone who just simply enjoys watching others create. I still have that hope. So I'll still share these stories with you. I recently acquired a new tool that will assist me in telling my story. Incidentally, I had put off purchasing this wood burner for nearly 2 years because I felt too guilty to buy it, somehow feeling unworthy of having something branded as a professional artist's tool. Of course, the only person stopping me from seeing myself as an artist is me. I've mentioned how I hope to gain more confidence in my abilities as an artist, and it's taken me a while to understand how to choose my perspective. Sometimes it feels like there's this disparity between how we see ourselves and how others view us. There we go. All right. Let's trace. And perhaps we have this tendency to make assumptions and assign merit or blame, but with only a limited view of the whole story. It reminds me of a line from one of my favorite movies. You see us as you want to see us, in the simplest terms and in the most convenient definitions. The real work comes when each of us takes a step back to constructively analyze the person we've become and discover who we really are for ourselves. There's a part of my process that almost always goes unseen, or perhaps unheard. In the hours of carefully completing each piece, my subconscious mind orchestrates a story to accompany it. More often than not, I tend to keep these stories unwritten in its natural state. Oh my goodness, I'm already excited. And simply let those ideas inspire and influence each artistic decision. But going forward, I've decided I want to retrieve these unprocessed words and shape them into stories for you and I to enjoy. She made it through another day. It seemed like it was getting harder with each passing second just to hold on to the idea of normalcy. Ever since the fire, everything around her resembled the lifeless and flat reflection she'd grown to resent. But to her dismay, it seemed that it was only her world that had changed. For everyone else, things stayed pretty much the same. She felt invisible, alone. In her mind, her life had become a cycle of meaningless tasks, even more so now that she was falling apart. Is there any point in trying to rebuild myself? She wondered. She was numb. Time meant nothing to her. She was fading away internally, and externally, things seemed to be stagnant. Every day the same, every day unfeeling and unchanged. She spent her days staring longingly into the skies, still able to admire the beauty of the shifting of the clouds and the cascading sunsets. The garden she once adored was now a menacing black scar, highlighted only by the fragments of the girl she used to be, the remnants of a beautiful soul. It was all she had left to share with anyone. But the rest of the world would pass her by, seeing nothing but the scar and reasoning that there was nothing of substance left to be discovered there. They couldn't know. They only saw what was on the surface. She didn't resent them for this, but she desperately hoped someday it would change. Hope was all she had left to feel. Time stretched onward, and the charred garden remained cold and inanimate. The area had been plagued by a severe drought for the last few seasons, and she could feel her bones weakening as she longed for the gentle kiss of rain from spring clouds. Her gaze was fixed toward the heavens, remaining hopeful for any sign of relief. But she had grown weak, and it was getting harder for her to find motivation to try and find her legs. In her exhaustion, she fell into a deep sleep, and she dreamt of thunderstorms and raging winds and a blinding fire that soared above the clouds and seized all the rain before it could even fall from the sky. She awoke in the dim light of the rising sun, terrified by the vividness of her dream, wiping her brow from the sweat of its vigor. But she felt different somehow. Something had changed. She soon realized that the vivid storms she dreamt of actually passed over her through the night. The ground was saturated with rain. Small bits of charred earth, displaced by water drops from heavy clouds, revealed the tender soil underneath. She breathed deep, reveling in the aroma of a fresh rain, a scent she hadn't smelled for such a long time. The rains kept coming that spring, renewing the earth and refreshing her spirit. She still felt numb, but there was a growing sense of resilience welling up inside her. She would spend her days exploring the gardens in the hopes of finding some way to mend herself. She'd venture to the garden gates, where she would sit to watch the clouds as the world passed her by. And it was here that she first saw it. The more she saw it, the more she was tortured by the thought of it, hoping to reach out and touch its trembling wings, hoping against reason that maybe she'd be able to feel something again. But it was always too quick to catch. The pain of her longing came in unyielding and unforgiving waves. But there was pain. At least she felt something, and she reasoned that this was better than the gnawing emptiness that echoed inside her withering bones. It went on like this for months, passing her by in a colorful blur just beyond the gates of her garden, never giving any indication that it was aware of her presence, just like all the rest. Then the flowers came. In one night, the lifeless ground upon which she slept suddenly burst forth with colorful foliage, and she awoke to intricate blooms. The emptiness she once felt began to be filled with the sweet aroma of new life. She drank in their beauty, overwhelmed by the variety and the splendor of their design. The indifference that numbed her spirit was replaced by a longing to see these gardens completely restored, filled with the majesty of creation. As she cradled these blooms close to the cavern which once held her heart, she felt it. She could hardly believe that it got so close, near enough to hear the beating of its heart and feel the gentle breeze which swept through her. Hey everybody, thank you so much for hanging out with me in this first edition of Steady Burn. If you're interested in seeing more content like this, where I share stories, poems, and just my general thoughts on existing as a human in this world, please consider subscribing to this channel if you haven't already. And if you have, I sincerely appreciate all of the support that I've received so far, and I look forward to being able to do more of these videos for you in the near future. So until then, I sincerely hope that you are well, and look forward to the next time we get to see each other. So long.